So just to begin, I'll introduce myself. My name is Emerson. I am one of the assistant directors of admissions here at Ross. I'm so glad that you guys are all joining us for the second session of our curriculum deep dive in our 2020 online revisit sessions. I'll let Carrie Clark introduce herself, but Carrie has been an educator for over 20 years. She's taught all around the world. She specializes in professional development, curriculum building, and is also the Dean of the Cultural History Department here at Ross. We're very, very lucky to have Carrie on this call. So Carrie, if you want to say a bit about yourself.
Yes, sure. So I have been an educator for much longer than 20 years, I hate to say. But I did join the Ross School 20 years ago. I have taught elsewhere. I've taught in China. I taught elsewhere on Long Island where we are here. I've taught in Belize and in West Africa. I've never seen a school like this. It's one of the reasons that I love it. And there's a few reasons, specific reasons about the school, about features of the school that make me love it so much. One of them is the curriculum. So I'll talk a little bit about that, but it's not the only one. So the curriculum was authored by a team of people here at the Ross School. No other school uses this curriculum. It is based on a historical narrative, world history from the Big Bang to the present. And we organize the curriculum around this historical narrative on the evolution of human consciousness, or the way humans think about themselves and their relationship to the world around them. Each grade level is a chapter in this historical story. And again, I said it's world history. So students visit cultures all over the world throughout their progression through the grades. So for instance, in the 5th grade, they're looking at riverine civilizations in ancient times like Sumer and Egypt and China. And in the 8th grade, they're looking at the medieval period. So they'll be in feudal Europe for a while, they'll be in Japan for a while, and they'll be in the Middle East, where Islam emerges in this time period. And in the 10th grade, which is the grade that I teach, they got to the modern period. That begins in 9th grade, but in the 10th grade, the class that I teach to Morgan and her classmates, they're looking at the period from the late 17th century up to the mid 19th century. And they'll continue in the 11th grade and finish out this curriculum of this world history story. So that is the framework for the curriculum. Every student takes the same history class, and they also take the same other core classes. These are the required classes that students take to help tell this story: science, literature, and integrated arts, which I'll say a few things about in a second. Each of these 3 subject areas, science, history, and English, the teachers work together to integrate the curriculum so that there is overlap in the story that they tell. So for instance, in the 10th grade right now, they do learn about the Enlightenment, and one of the texts they're reading in their English class is Candide right now. They also read Robinson Crusoe. And in the science class, they spent some time learning about Isaac Newton and the work that he did in this similar time period. Not all of the curriculum overlaps and is integrated. We only do it when it makes sense, because of course every subject area has its discrete content and skills. The 4th core class that they take is an integrated arts class, and that is media studies, visual arts, and performing arts, 1 trimester of each in grades 9 through 11. So no matter whether you want to take art or if you're an artist, it's great. If you're not an artist, you're still going to take an art class, 1 trimester at least, a visual arts class, and a performing arts class, and a media class. So those are the 3 integrated arts, and those teachers during the relevant trimesters integrate with the curricular story as well. All of the teachers have the same students, and all the students have the same teachers. So that really fosters a sense of connection and community, which we'll talk about a little bit later, I think. The other feature of the feature of the curriculum that I really like is that it's a global history story. So the students get a real sense of different perspectives and points of view, and that it is integrated. So they also get a sense of interdisciplinary thinking. In my own experience, I have 2 kids who graduated, they're adult now, But they themselves, when they graduated, they hadn't realized how much they had absorbed this kind of integrated way of thinking and this, you know, this understanding of different perspectives, particularly, you know, multicultural perspectives. And it really does get kind of, you know, absorbed into them as they move through the curriculum. In addition to taking these core courses, the students can take 2 electives, and you can do that in any of our departments. We have a robust art program. So I heard one of the students says that she likes fashion. That's great because we see a lot of those students. But you can also take additional science classes. You can take English classes, any media studies class. We have photography, we have robotics, we have technology classes, wood shop and metal shops. So there's a lot of different kinds of electives that you can take, geography, current events. In addition, you take a math class, that's required. You take a language class, a foreign language class. These are both required. And you take a wellness class, which is what we call physical education or PE. So everybody takes that. It's required, and we do it daily so that you have fitness and wellness training every day. The teachers of the core curriculum meet weekly to discuss the curriculum and especially to discuss the students, so that there's a real sense of knowing all of these kids. We have meetings and we talk about, say, you know, this student I haven't heard from, or hey, this student did a really good job on this. Or you might notice that one student is working on one project and another student is working on another project, and maybe they should talk to each other about it. And so we spend a lot of time fostering community in those team meetings by keeping our eyes on all of the students. Speaking of projects, another thing that happens in our curriculum is there's a lot of projects. And it's not 100% project. People write papers and they do math problems and science experiments, but they also have many opportunities in the curriculum to express themselves in particular ways that they prefer. So for instance, we're not doing it this term in the 10th grade because we're on digital learning right now, but you might do an integrated project about industrialization in which you do a little research and you can express your understanding in a variety of ways. Whether it's, you know, usually creating something. Some people have, well, actually, we haven't done this project yet. I haven't done this project yet, but people in the industrialization, what we were thinking is that when we were planning this, was that students might do a painting, a romantic era painting, or they might do some kind of scientific experiment or build a model or something related to industrialization. They might do a model of a city. So there are a lot of different ways that students can express themselves based on what they're interested in. We have a similar project in the 11th grade, and they of course do it in the earlier grades too. By the time you get to 12th grade, you do a senior project, which is one of our capstone programs in which you can do a project. You have to do a project, but you get to choose whatever you want, whatever you want. So we've had students for their senior projects run a marathon, learn to fly a plane. They've published books, they've made movies, they've done all kinds of things, choreography, they've done fashion. So there's a lot of hands-on learning that goes on, and the students have a lot of opportunities to explore their passions. I think that's all I'm going to say right now. You can hand it off. Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. Yeah, that was beautiful. So as you can see, the curriculum at Ross is incredibly diverse. We try to touch on any number of disciplines. And as Ms. Clark alluded to, one of the core principles of our curriculum is the integrated nature and interdisciplinary nature of it. Based on its construction, we want students to take what they're learning in their cultural history class and be able to apply it in other classes and vice versa. And our second guest today, equally as illustrious as Ms. Clark, is Morgan. Morgan is a current 10th grader, and Morgan really enjoys history and math. If correct me if I'm wrong, Morgan.
Science and math.
Science, I was wrong. So Morgan,
I just like everything though. I like Miss Clark's class. Don't get me wrong.
Good. That's a safe thing to say. Well done. So what can you say to new students, Morgan, about transitioning into the Ross curriculum? Because as Ms. Clark stated, it's pretty fundamentally different than a lot of curriculums that are taught in the world. And we have students here from Russia, we have students here from Texas, from Germany, and they're learning in different styles as they stand now. What would you say to them to make them feel a little more confident about coming into a distinctly different learning environment and a different curriculum?
So personally, I came here in the 9th grade. I came here from the New York City public school system. So I don't know if, well, I assume that any of you guys are familiar with it, but it's very different than what Ross does in the way that your history is usually a certain time period, but it's not, it's a very large time period and it's not chronological. So coming to Ross, I expected to, dive into this chronological time period program where I'd be lost in everything that was taught before 9th grade. And that really was not the case. I came in and honestly, it's more in a way where you learn a little bit about what was taught before and then you dive into the time period of the year. And I expected to come in and then have to learn everything myself, but the teachers do a really good job of really teaching what was before and all that stuff so that you're comfortable in the class, and then they start learning new stuff, which, I don't know if that's any comfort to any of you guys, but
I think that's
learning new things, but
yeah, that the
no.
teachers make sure that students are brought up to speed is what you're saying.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
they'll do touchstone material on things that have led or antecedent events that are bringing people up to speed on the time period that is the focus of that grade, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. And maybe you could speak a little bit, Morgan, about the student-teacher relationship. What is it like to be in a class at Ross for those 45 minutes? What has your experience been in that regard?
Yeah. Ever since I came to Ross, I've been here 2 years now. I have a great relationship with all of my teachers, I would say, because they really care about how you're doing in the class. So no matter where you are in the class, we sit kind of in like this open half circle rectangle thing
Right.
for most of our classes. So everyone's kind of like in a half circle. So everyone talks to everyone. Everyone can see the teacher. No one is at like a far point in the classroom. So you're able to connect with everyone in your class. And the teacher kind of sits in like, not sits, but stands in like the little middle of the half circle thing. So everyone's able to see the teacher, and the teacher uses that setup in order to be very present in everyone's academic life. And oh, that scared me.
No problem.
And I lost my train of thought.
That's all right.
But I think you guys get the point that it's the student-teacher relationship in that sense in the classroom is very, very present. And all my teachers will, do almost anything in order to support me in my education. I can email them at night and they'll answer like 15, 20 minutes later. They're very involved in what you want to do or anything that you do.
Carrie, maybe you could speak to that as well. Given that you've taught in so many different academic environments, is there something that is fundamentally different about how Ross faculty operate and produce the curriculum? Is there something unique about the relationship between the faculty at Ross and how they conduct their business?
When I first got here, actually when I came for an interview all those years ago, I was struck by how interactive the faculty were with each other. If I was walking down the path with the person that was, that was hosting me, they were talking, they would go, oh, hey, we have that meeting, or, oh, what about that project? There was just this constant interactivity. The faculty too are very, very close and very open to learning. I feel like I've gotten several other bachelor's degrees in science and literature and art, and now I'm learning about Shakespeare from Gerard. you know, and so the faculty are very, very open with each other, and they work together constantly, collaborating, not just to develop curriculum or refine it, like the industrialization project that we wanted to launch this spring, but also to talk about students. You know, in other schools that I've worked in, it's very fragmented. You know, you might, this student, what happens is all the students have the same teachers, like I said, and all the teachers have the same students. So it's very easy for teachers to stay in touch with each other about how a student is doing, about when a student might need support. And when we have our team meetings, we do spend a lot of time there, and also somebody from the student support services office is there too. So if a student has a particular interest or particular need, it's very easy for teachers to focus on that, and we communicate about our students constantly. In fact, especially in the last couple of weeks, we've been doing that since the shift to digital learning, because we want to make sure that we're reaching everyone. So the faculty are very, very collaborative and very close and very open-minded and a lot of fun. They bring that, I think, into the classroom sometimes when they get playful. That's true of a lot of teachers. But I think that in other environments, in other schools that I've been in, the faculty work was done in a much more siloed way. And it's not like that at all here.
That is good to hear.
Can I add on to that?
Yeah, please, Morgan.
I think it's really the same, even in like student to student relationships. Like when you walk down the path on campus, I say hi to almost every single person going down that path. Like everyone in the school is kind to each other, and I wouldn't say we're all very close, but no one disrespects anyone. It's a really nice community to be a part of, because even if you're new, people will talk to you and sit with you at lunch if you're alone, and make friends with you if you seem lonely. Like everyone wants to be your friend.
That is a beautiful thing. Yeah. And maybe you just answered this, Morgan, but what would you say are some of the qualities of Ross students? What are some of the things that students at Ross who are successful you exemplify? Is it friendliness? Is it open-mindedness? How would you define the Ross student?
I'd say almost the same thing I just said, like kind, open-minded, exhibits open-mindedness.
Nice, cool.
But not only that, but just diligent in everything that they do, hardworking, like won't shy from a challenge. Like those are all things that raw students and what they're passionate about will do.
Absolutely, yeah. Now, was it that friendly, congenial atmosphere at Ross, or was it the academically minded curriculum? What was it that drew you, Morgan, to Ross? And then I'd love to hear Carrie as well. What was it that drew you to Ross as you guys came at it from different angles? Morgan, obviously being a student, and Carrie coming in as a member of the faculty. What were the things that appealed to you guys about Ross at the time that you guys were looking at it? Morgan, why don't you go first?
The first thing that I saw about Ross was, I saw the website and I saw the campus, and I looked at everything. And I was like, wow, these programs are so nice. Like, look at the art room. It's so like decked out. And when I got to the school, I realized that the classrooms reflected what the programs were. Honestly, like the art room is still decked out because the art teachers will truly help you if you're passionate in art, and they'll have everything ready for you if you want to make a portfolio. Or the science teachers, in my case, will have almost every piece of equipment that you could think of in order to, do a lab or something like that. So that's what originally drew me to Ross. And what kept me at Ross, honestly, was the people. Like, the people are so kind to each other, again, like I already said. And yeah, the community is really, really good, in my opinion.
That's great. Yeah, Ms. Clark, what drew you to Ross as a member of the faculty?
It's funny, Morgan, when you were talking about the campus. When I arrived, we only had the high school building that we now, that you have your history class in.
Yeah.
And since we built 4 other buildings, but 3 other buildings, plus the tennis center. But it was beautiful then. It's got a big statue of Winged Victory in front of it. It's got a replica of the Duomo in Florence inside, and there's a lot of visual beauty. There's a lot of beauty when you look at the space that was very intentionally designed. So I liked that, but what really drew me was the community and the curriculum. So I think that the curriculum is very, very interesting. Not just because I'm a historian and it's based on history, but because it allows me so many opportunities to learn. And that was really, really exciting for me, because the nature of the curriculum is that the people that you work the most closely with are not the other history teachers, although you do definitely work with them, but your core people that you're doing your day-to-day work with are people from other disciplines. So you're constantly learning. And I'm a lifelong learner, and that was a really big part of it. And the curriculum not only invites you to learn, but it teaches 21st century skills like global mindedness and interdisciplinary thinking and systems thinking, which they have a whole thing about when they're in 12th grade. So the curriculum by far, and the community of collaboration. And when I was here, I spent a lot of time with adults when I was first being interviewed, but I also taught a model class, and the students were so wonderful. Like just the spirit that you hear Morgan talk about and that you can see in her was very evident even way back then. And I taught a 10th grade class, a model lesson, and it was a lot of fun.
That is great. Yeah. Morgan and Ms. Clark, I would love for you guys just to answer one more question, and then we'll open it up to the other participants to ask questions of you guys. And I just wanted to, I wanted to hear you guys talk a little bit about the interdisciplinary nature of Ross's curriculum. Because I feel that and from everything I've learned about the curriculum, is it really sets up an analytical mindset that is distinctly different than what other curriculums and other educational models set up and give to their students. So Morgan, could you maybe talk about what it's like to learn in an integrated curriculum where every class is connected in some way or some fashion to another class?
Yeah, I'd say it keeps your mind in one place, which I like, because usually in like maybe other school systems, you have to go to English and learn about this part, and then you go to history, put in your history brain, and then you learn about this part, and then you go to math and you put in your math brain, you learn this part. And I think it's a lot different here, because all the time you're kind of going through like a continuous mind train.
Beautifully put, Morgan. Excellent. Yeah. I think you got to add that to the curriculum, Carrie. Continuous mind train.
That's great. And you do take little, you go and do this discrete material in each class that's necessary, of course. But I like the way that you put that. And it's interesting because the teachers, and I was one of the the co-authors of the 11th grade curriculum when it was first built. And we used to be jealous of the students who got to experience all the classes, and they were smarter than all of us because we were just doing our part and they were doing their part. But when you're in the classroom, what I saw was that you can see that if a student is learning about, say, imperialism in the 19th century, and they're learning about evolution and Darwin in their science class, and so in the history class, you want to talk about the concept of social Darwinism, which is this belief that was debunked in the early 20th century. You can see how their understanding of what they're learning in their science class really deepens their understanding and makes it easier for them in the history class to understand social Darwinism. And then in the English class, they might be reading Chinua Achebe, or they might be reading Rudyard Kipling and related texts that speak to the same concept. And so it really helps them grasp it. I like the way that Morgan put it. It's not, the experience is not super fragmented. You do have to do separate things for different classes, but it's much less fragmented than it is when you're in a typical school.
Yeah, that's nice. So we would love to open this up for questions from you guys now. We'd love to hear from any number of you guys if you have questions about what it's like to go to school at Ross, about the academic life, the social life. Morgan can clue you in on all the gossip, I'm sure, if anyone wants to know. So we'd love, if you guys have any questions, please, you can raise your hand and I can unmute you if you want to verbally ask the question, or if you just want to type it in the chat, please go ahead and feel free to do so. Otherwise, do we have any questions? None for the time being. Oh, all right. Jada Joseph. Great. Go ahead, Jada. There you go. Go ahead.
I have like 2 questions.
Yeah.
Is there like a limit to the number of subjects that you can do at Ross?
Carrie, I think that would be a good question for you.
Every term you're enrolled in 10 classes, and you have a required core curriculum plus math, language, and wellness. So every term, and there's 3 of them in a year, you can take 2 electives. And you take those 2 electives, sometimes they're a year long, like Morgan's taking a year-long elective right now. But if over the course of a year, if you take trimester-long electives, you can take 6 different courses in 1 year. More than that is a pretty heavy academic load. Occasionally students will do something extra in addition, but it's not that common. So every term you'll be able to enroll in, you'll be enrolled in 10 courses, including your wellness class, and you get 2 classes to choose from. And you get 2 electives, and there's a good electives catalog where there's a wide range of options in different subject areas.
Okay. And my second question is, you said the curriculum is pretty widespread, right? So in the Caribbean, including Dominica, we have a subject called human social biology, which is basically biology, but more focusing on the human and social aspects of biology in depth. I was wondering if Ross offers that subject.
That we have offered that subject in the past, and I'm not sure what the electives catalog will look like, but we have offered a class like that in our science department. One of the things that we also do, the electives are proposed by the teachers and approved by the administration. And many times students will say, I would like to take a class in X, and then the teachers will say, okay, I can make one of those classes. So in fact, I think it was Bettina who told me about a class that she would love to see. And so I'm talking with my department about possibly offering that next year, because we think that it could be interesting to a lot of students.
Okay.
Morgan, I think we have a question that would be great for you. What does boarding school life look like?
Yeah, so I'm a boarder, just for you guys who didn't know. I'm kind of like a fake boarder because I live very close, but I still board like every day. And the boarding life is very packed. Like, I like it. It's not packed in like a bad way, but it's very scheduled. Like, you do things this time every single day.
So
and
you feel it keeps you busy throughout the day.
Yeah. There's no there's like free time, obviously, but it's not like you're not gonna be bored all the time. Like, you have things to do all the time. Like, you end school, you have like a 2-hour time between the end of classes and like dinner / leaving school, and then once you get home, you go to sleep and you go to school again. And that's like weekdays, which, I think that seems like given it's a weekday. But yeah, like there's always something to do.
What can you say, Morgan, about the environment of our boarding houses? Like, what's the relationship between you and your boarding parents like? as well as you and your co-boarding students that live in the house with you?
Me and my house, I like to say that we're the most close house. We're the coolest house. Because every single one of us are friends with each other, which I think it's similar in every boarding house, but our house is like super close to each other in like almost a weird way. Like even the house parents, we're all so close to each other, and like we all love each other so much. And I feel like because you're living with these people and you spend all the time with them, like you are gonna make friends with the people in your house. Like no ifs and buts.
That's great. Yeah. Carrie, we have a question about the advisory system, as well as a couple college questions. The college questions, I would refer those to our mini session tomorrow, which is actually strictly on the college counseling system that we have in place at Ross. And so there's going to be a really deep dive into how students select their colleges. The college counseling department at Ross is something that I think is particularly impressive given the length of time that they're working with students. So I would encourage anyone who has questions about college counseling to attend our sessions tomorrow. But maybe, Carrie, you could touch on the advisory system and how advisory works.
Right. I meant to mention that earlier and I skipped it. I forgot. But every student, when they arrive at the school, in the high school, the middle school has advisory too, but you're all high schoolers. You get an advisor when you enter 9th grade, and the advisor is a faculty member, like me. Every faculty member has like 5 to 7 students that are their advisees, and they basically are an advocate for the student on campus. We meet weekly with our advisees, sometimes twice weekly. And that's a 45-minute stretch where you touch base. You might have some organized activities. You might be reviewing add drop forms or grade reports with your advisees. And so you have regular contact with your advisors. But outside of that 45 minutes, that advisor is included in discussions about you that might need, when a student might need your support. Like for instance, if a student is going to be absent for a while because they have an injury and they're, not able to get to school for a week, your advisor is made aware of that. Your advisor will interface with or check in with your teachers and support you as you're doing that. This week, I've been supporting some of my advisees who are struggling with the new online learning environment. So you're basically like the person who is the kids' go-to when they have an issue, when they have a problem, and it could be academic, like maybe they need an after-school schedule, an after-school support schedule, and so you can help them make that. Or maybe it's because they have a particular interest or a plan that involves getting adults involved, like the people who run the facilities program or the facilities department, and you can help them navigate through that. So the advisors and the advisees have close relationships, and it's good because no advisor has more than, I think, 7 or maybe 8 advisees. So they're really easy to follow and keep in touch with.
That's great. Yeah. So I just, before, and does anyone else have any questions before I just fill you guys in? Oh, great. All right. Yeah, let's unmute Ala.
Thank you very much for valuable and important information, but I have a question specifically to Morgan because she has a perspective from like a student. So why do you think it's more important to learn in kind of like environment where everything is integrated and it goes throughout the history and like evolution of human consciousness than just learning in a typical school?
Why do I think it's important?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important personally because, like, when you have a class that's, let's say you have a global history class and you just go into global history and it's a very brief, like, little timestamp of an event that you learned throughout the whole year and you learned a bunch of brief things. But in Ross, like, because it's chronological and because you have all this time to delve deep into this one time period, you really get to learn like thoroughly what's happening in this period, and you know, everything about it. And you know, you don't really get that perspective when you're in the regular global history class, or if you're learning about American history, you get to deeply learn about American history. You don't necessarily have to learn about just the American Revolution and George Washington and you're on to the next thing, you know? So I think that's important in education.
Great answer and great question. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Does anyone else have any other questions?
I think there's another one in the chat panel.
Oh, great. Oh, yes, I responded to that. But Carrie, do you want to speak about the sort of history of Ross just a little bit and the evolution of Ross?
Right. So some of you might know it was founded in the early 1990s by a woman and people who helped her who had a child, and they were interested in a unique, kind of different way of learning. And it started out as a small group of just one class, and it was an all-girls school. And then as they grew older, we added grades, and I wasn't involved at this point. I was hired to do the 11th grade curriculum when we had our first 11th grade class in 1999. And the intentions were always to make it a global-minded school. We had students doing homestays and enrolled in the school from other parts of the world for, by the time I got here in 1999, there were maybe like 3 or 4 of them. And we had, at that point, each grade level had about, I think maybe 30 kids. So we always intended to become an international school. The initially did homestays, but then moved to boarding when we increased the number of international students that we had. And that began in, what's today, 2020? I think around 10 years ago, maybe a little bit longer, we started increasing our boarding population. We wanted more global, a more global demographic. And we were also looking to grow the school. And that's when we started doing the kind of boarding that we're doing now. The founder of the school retired and is not involved any longer for what now, 2-3 years, I think. But the legacy is very strong, and she's really built a wonderful thing. And it was her vision that this would be what it looked like. And I think everybody's super committed and doing a good job.
I certainly agree that it's a special place and everyone is doing a good job. Morgan, I think you'd probably agree as well.
Yes, sir.
we paid her a handsome sum to say that. But yeah, if there are any other questions, we'd love to hear them. Otherwise, oh, great. Thank you, Jess. Let's see if we can unmute you quickly. Yeah, go ahead, Jess.
Hi, thanks. I was just wondering if you could clarify. It sounds like this core integrated program through the grades is amazing, but to what extent, if any, are the elective subjects and then your math, wellness, foreign language type courses integrated into that content as well? Does that cover your whole curriculum, or is that really just within the core?
It's mostly within the core mostly. Now teachers can collaborate teaching different electives, but the electives are much more distinct classes of their own. Now we do, and this is kind of a complicated feature of the core curriculum or the narrative of history, but we use mathematics as a kind of metaphor for the way that the story unfolds, which is that there's kind of an analogy made between mathematics getting more complex as human consciousness evolved, as does human society and engagement. So we do sometimes bring in math into the core curriculum, and one way that we do that is every week there is a dedicated time that all of the core teachers and all of the core students are together in one place, and we can use that time to do integrated activities. And it's in these spaces that a math teacher might come in and do a presentation about, say, Newton and math, which is something that happened earlier. I think it was it Newton? Calculus, yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
That happened earlier this year, and they do similar things when they're in the 12th grade and they're going through a recapitulation of the whole spiral. So the math teachers will come in and do presentations, or they might have them do some math activities in the 11th grade when they're learning about complexity, when they're learning about new math, in modern mathematics in the late 19th century. And they build a tesseract out of marshmallows and toothpicks and plastic straws to try to understand the concept of a fourth dimension or a fifth or a sixth, because mathematicians in this time period actually started to do that. And it really helps them understand the modern consciousness and how this involved a different kind of, in some cases, mind-bending way of thinking. To conceptualize a fourth dimension is not easy. And so they would build this mathematical model and actually learn how it was useful in the late 19th century and continues to be useful to talk about and work within the mathematical framework of dimensions beyond the three that we all know. So that's how math integrates. And then, but the rest of the, oh, and I'm sorry, wellness integrates too sometimes too. In the 10th grade, the students also take a health class. There's a grade level program for each of the grades. So in the 11th grade, they're doing college preparatory planning. In the 10th grade, they're doing health. And in the 9th grade, they're doing academic writing. And so those teachers also might come in and integrate. And any teacher, if you ever want to have a teacher come in and maybe do a guest lesson on a subject area that you think could enrich your students' experiences, there is no teacher that will say no.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you. Morgan, I think we have one more question for you, and then I think we'll close the session and refer the rest of the questions on to the specific sessions that they are pertinent to. But Morgan, could you just tell us a little bit about what it's like on weekends really quickly?
Yeah.
You feel that the weekend activities contribute to the overall experience of Ross?
Definitely. To answer her question, Maria. During the weekend, so on Saturday, okay, I'll start with Fridays kind of. So on Fridays, it's the end of a weekday. And so we are allowed to leave campus we're allowed to leave campus 3:45 as soon as it starts, unless you have a sport. Then you would stay for your sport. But we're allowed to leave, we're allowed to stay at school until 6 o'clock for dinner. And if you choose not to stay at school until 6 o'clock for dinner, then you're allowed to go out to town. So either East Hampton Town, Sag Harbor Town, wherever, as long as you're back at the boarding house by 11 p.m. So that'd be a Friday. And on a Saturday, you wake up whenever. We go to school at 10:30. I think the bus picks us up. And you go to school until, I think, around 5 something, 6, I forget. And we eat dinner there. You stay at school all day, or you can go out. There are certain town trips every weekend. So you can go to East Hampton Town, a bus takes you there, or you can go to Bridgehampton, a bus will also take you there. And then there are other fun things you can do too, but that depends. And on Sundays, you just stay home. And so I'd say that contributes to like my experience in social life, because I see my boarding friends almost every day, like 6 out of 7 days a week.
Only 6 days of the week?
Okay, staying at home has made me forget how many days are in a week a little bit.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I'd say that because of that, I see my friends almost every single day, and we are able to, have a stronger friendship. So, during regular school days, like you know everyone, and that's really great.
Absolutely.
Made my experience a lot better.
Cool. Yeah. Carrie, just quickly, maybe you could answer this question about how remote learning is going.
Yeah.
Uh,
So we've spent a week ramping up on a new digital tool that we're using, Microsoft Teams, and I had the advantage of having used Microsoft Teams last year when I was teaching in Beijing for 1 year. And just like on campus, the way the faculty are coming together to collaborate and help each other, I'm spending a lot of time in meetings like this, talking about students, talking about strategies for how this can unfold. And like I said, we did this for a week before. I just this morning checked my assignments, and I see that all of my students except one have submitted the assignments, and that's across, let's see, I've got 63 students, and there's only one missing assignment from last week. So that's great. And again, like they are on campus, I don't know, I imagine this has been your experience, Morgan, but I've got kids texting me and sending me emails, and I'm immediately available. We're all holding office hours daily where we are live in front of our computers for at least 3 hours a day, and many teachers are scheduling meetings separate from that. Teachers are making videos, or they're uploading videos that they want their students to look at and interact with. We are doing most of the teaching asynchronously, which is because of our time zone differences. We have in the 10th grade students from Honolulu to California to Mexico, Cancun and Mexico City and Brazil. Of course, here in New York, Kigali, Europe, and Budapest and Paris. And then in the East, we've got Tokyo and Seoul and Beijing and Shanghai. So there's no way that we can really do online lessons, although we are trying to gather students from time to time. Like, for instance, Morgan, at 9 a.m., are you going to tune in to Haley's meeting tomorrow?
Oh, well, she's going to kill me if I don't,
Yeah,
but
okay. Good. So we're trying to block out time for live meetings where students can get some clarification, teachers can share things, or that we can, like she wanted to last week, have a costume party. I brought home Origins, so maybe we can play that game. But we're trying to schedule that, but we're just now beginning week 2, and we are not sure how long this will last. I think the uncertainty is across the board. We're not sure how long it will last anywhere in the world or in the country. And currently the school is making plans like with a 2-week, looking out 2 weeks at a time. So I'm not sure how long this will last. And the question was, is it till the end of the year? And I just don't know the answer to that question. We have to see how this unfolds. But we'll all be very happy to get back together in the fall if that does happen, and hopefully before that.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I just wanted to thank all of you guys for joining us this morning or afternoon or evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much. We're so excited that you guys are all considering coming to Ross next year. I've heard a lot of great things about a lot of you. And so I really am excited to see you all here in the fall. And thank you, Morgan and Carrie, for making this such a special time for us and making it so informative and interactive. Do you guys have any final words you want to leave us with?
I just want to say that all of this, what I want you to think about is what Morgan said at the beginning, which is that this is a really warm and open community. Everybody is very nice to each other, and teachers and students are very close. And when you come, one thing is to keep that in mind. All you have to do is reach out, and this could be about anything. And students who don't reach out get noticed in the classroom. But like, let's say you can't, you can't figure out an assignment, or maybe you have to turn it in late. If you contact your teacher and you have dialogues with them, all they want to do is support you and help you. And that's true not just for teachers, but also for staff. And so this is a place that really wants to take care of you and help you and do everything that they can to help you achieve your goals and be successful. So when you come, keep that in mind, that you don't need to worry about being alone, about being lonely, about not knowing where to get help, because if you ask anyone, they'll help you. And if they can't help you, they will help you find the person who can help you. And so it's a really, really great community, and it's a fantastic curriculum and academic program as well.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Carrie. Morgan, do you have any final words?
Oh my God, my voice. I just want to just agree with everything. As Clark said, everyone is so open to making new friends. I said this in the last video thing, I'll say it again, like no one will hesitate to be your friend. And I think that's a really important part of Ross, and I really hope you guys come.
Absolutely. Thank you all again for joining us. And you please never hesitate to reach out to the Office of Admissions with any questions. And as Carrie said, if we can't answer, we'll direct you to the place that we think will get you an answer. But we hope that you all have a good rest of your day and stay safe. All right.
Thank you, Emerson. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, guys. Bye-bye.